And my colleague Jessica Taneja, who is following this visit very closely, joins me in the studio. And Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat brings to the discussion all his vast experience in diplomacy to put this into context. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. Jessica, if I may start with you. So this is being seen as a historic visit. Why is it being seen so?
Well, if you'd recall, quarter of a century ago, when Vladimir Putin had arrived in India for a state visit, you had very similar security and economic situations around the world. Of course, it has changed quite a bit since the last time, which is about 25 years ago. But if you see, this visit is particularly a bilateral visit. The focus is on strengthening economic ties. And if you'd recall, Mark, the last summit that took place in Moscow, which was in July last year, they had collectively signed 9 MOUs. Even then, they had stressed on strengthening economic ties because of the trade deficit that India has with Russia. It's nearly $60 billion because of the massive chunk of it being oil. And with that given, both the countries and their negotiating sides have identified various sectors where they want to continue to expand in. For example, both potatoes and pomegranates are now being sold in Russia. That just started last month. So slowly but steadily, from agro trade to pharmaceutical to other sectors of cooperation, which go much beyond defense and nuclear cooperation that have been the traditional sectors of cooperation between the two countries. The visit primarily wants to focus on how to enhance that economic cooperation and reach that $100 billion worth of bilateral trade target that the two countries have set for the year 2030.
Ambassador Trigunayat, so currently the trade deficit is large because India largely imports huge amounts of hydrocarbons from Russia. And would we be able to, get sustained long-term contracts at reduced rates for this purchase to continue? And to reduce the deficit, as Jessica was saying, I mean, we are looking at agricultural products and the like. But I mean, what more can be put on the table so that, that there can be some balance? Because right now it's like $63 billion to about $3 billion.
Thank you, Mark. I agree with Jessica, what she said. At the same time, we need to understand that wherever we have the countries from where we are importing energy, the trade deficit is a common phenomenon. It is not something because then those countries are small in population, the market size is small. We are not probably supplying that kind of a thing. So it happens. At the same time, as far as India and Russia trade is concerned, I remember from my days that we were struggling to have even a $5 billion trade. Eventually, it reached about $10 billion trade. And now, due to the Russia-Ukraine war, suddenly, because of our energy security, it jumped up to $68 billion. And we are expecting it to go up to $100 billion by 2030. But at the same time, most important thing, and I was in Russia very recently also, where President Putin himself realized and said that we have to develop mechanisms whereby India's exports to the Russian market could be enhanced and increased significantly. And I think that that is the kind of mechanism and identification of various items that have been now done. At the same time, we have to also look at other dimensions. Like whatever is the differential, most of it is rupee-ruble trade. So the rupee surplus, whatever is there, then this is a unique opportunity for the Russians to invest in the Indian strategic sectors, because we are now focusing a great deal on Make in India, and Russia also wants to get into that. So that is also possible. So we have to look at trade and investment in that particular metrics to be able to do that. Secondly, of course, Indian companies also have to be a little more aggressive in the market. As I always say, that this is perhaps the Soviet moment for the Indian companies to capitalize on the Russian market. It is not a very big market, but at the same time, 138 million people are no less, and they have a good purchasing power as well. So I think that Indians have to be a little more aggressive, have to go out, and there are certain areas like in the Far East, where Indian government is also focusing, Russians are also inviting, the Indian companies need to go there. And we'll have to continue to identify new areas, services sectors, the AI, the IT sector. Those are the new areas in which we can probably expand our bilateral. Then tourism is something which is extremely important. And I hope this time they are able to sign this UPI and agreement with the Russians so
Right.
that it makes easier for the Indians to travel to Russia.
Indeed, and Jessica, what can we expect, in terms of the meeting tomorrow and also on the agenda, issues with regard to mobility of people into Russia? Currently, I mean, there is a great need for skilled personnel in Russia, and India produces the largest number of STEM graduates in the world. And also, as Minister Piyush Goyal was saying today at the business forum, he said that Indians work hard and, they don't really make too many problems about working, and wherever they go, they actually create a lot of wealth. In this context, I'm sure the Russians are aware of that, aren't they?
Well, certainly they are, and so is the rest of the world. But as Ambassador Trigoni had said, that it takes a really long time to forge very strengthened economic ties with Russia. At this point, a country that is heavily sanctioned by the West, India also has strong partners in the West as well. So it certainly makes it a little difficult to navigate this tricky path right now because of Russia being banned from the SWIFT payment system, plus as I said, additional sanctions that have made it very difficult to trade with India, especially hampering India's energy trade with Russia as well, with secondary sanctions that the Donald Trump administration had levied on India just a few months ago that has still sort of, given that slight bit of unease. But the focus of this visit, as I said earlier, is to then go ahead and enhance those trade ties, to try and work on a goal which can improve that margin of roughly around $5 billion worth of Indian exports to Russia, and that could expand to multiple sectors. Now, it will be up to a lot of Indian companies to explore which are the strategic sectors that they should be looking into. With that said, talking about Indian workers, there is a possibility of a labor mobility pact that could be discussed or signed, and if that goes through, I think there is a lot that will be more clear in terms of what happens between workers who are there and companies who want to put their workers there, or offices in Moscow. So certainly all of that will be discussed given the current geo-economic climate, which is very important because, Mark, we live in a world where sanctions are unequal and perhaps based on very strategic advantages. It's a very transactional approach to doing business right now in the world. So in that sense, both Russia and India would be looking into various kinds of ways on how to ensure that labor mobility is a slight bit more easy.
Indeed. Ambassador Trigunayat, we'll look at defense. This is a sector which has really been the bedrock of the relationship for a very, very long time. And the Russians have been in a position to give us technology transfer, which has helped us a great deal. Now that we have also opened up our defense sector and there's a lot of private sector participation, would you see, a great opportunity here in terms of taking this sector forward, also in terms of improving our trade imbalance? Because over a period of time, I mean, the establishment of defense requirements within India, which have Russian sourcing, would help both sides.
Indeed, I think that the Russians would have to strategically look at Indian opportunity, and especially in the defense sector. And I believe that now, what I can gather from the statements coming out of President Putin and his colleagues is that they are very much keen on participating in the Make in India campaign, especially in the defense sector. Like what we have heard about the Su-57s and S-500s and several other, like we are doing that rifle, as you know, A302, which is now being manufactured in India. It's become the primary weapon for the soldiers. So like Russians anti-90 tank and all, we have started manufacturing in India. And so therefore, I believe that there are a lot of possibilities, new areas, but the Russians know it, that where India is going. India wants to become reliant on the defense also as far as possible. And therefore, the Russians want to be a partner in that. And I think, as I said, this is a Soviet moment for the Indian companies to explore the Russian market. It is also a strategic window available to the Russians to invest in the Indian opportunity, including in the defense sector and the oil and gas sector as well.
Ambassador Thrigunayat, also in terms of strategic autonomy, why is this visit being seen as important for India? Also, the fact that President Putin is coming here after a pretty long time. I mean, he was here in 2021 before his military operation into Ukraine.
Yeah, normally these are annual summits, but the last couple of years we have seen that there has been a skip in one of them, and that's why this happens to be the fourth year that President Putin is coming. Prime Minister Modi was in Moscow last time for the visit. But what is more important is that there is a consistency. In 11 years, President Putin and Prime Minister Modi have met 19 times. And the way you have seen in the evening when Prime Minister Modi went out of protocol and received President Putin, they rode in the car together. Now they are having a dinner. That shows the kind of comfort, the kind of trust and respect they have for each other, the kind of issues they will be able to discuss. I think the most important issues are discussed in these kind of bilateral tete-a-tete meetings. And so it doesn't matter really. I was there on the first summit when it happened. I was in Moscow, posted in Moscow, flew to Delhi when we signed this agreement. And now this is the 25th year in which it's happening. So they'll have to chart out a new path for the next 25 years in the vision statements that we might expect. So I believe that the relationship has deepened, and it is strategic autonomy in action, frankly.
Does it come at the cost of, us being affected in US as well as European markets?
Well, it will be perceived by them so, but I believe that from our point of view, it is not either or. It is this plus that. And that's what is our strategic autonomy is all about. And the Americans, without anything also irrationally, they will impose tariffs on you, so you can't do anything. You got to just confront them and tide them over. And that's precisely what India is doing. Despite the US sanctions or additional sanctions, we have not reduced and will continue to work on it.
Jessica, so in Russia last year, you were there, 9 agreements were signed. What's expected this time? I mean, some people are talking about 11 agreements. Am I being too enthusiastic?
Well, there's always some level of anticipation with such visits, especially when it's the Russian president here in New Delhi after 2021, where he was, which is right before the crisis in Europe and Ukraine that we see. With this visit particularly, I think the focus, as I said, continues to be on economic ties, and certainly we'll see MOUs which would be to that effect. We don't know exactly what kind of MOUs the two are going to sign. And with that given in place, expect something, of course, on the trade ties to be strengthened, a lot to do with labor and mobility. I've been also told that the Russian business delegation is traveling to India along with the Russian president, over 100 of them from various sectors, from agriculture to pharmaceuticals to many other sectors, who want to come and explore businesses here in India. And certainly looking at that kind of potential and momentum, there could be MOUs to that effect to further strengthen those ties. And of course, make sure that there are more avenues when it comes to trade between the two countries that go much beyond the traditional sectors of cooperation, which is defense and nuclear.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Jessica Taneja, for joining us in the studio. We look forward to your reporting tomorrow. And Ambassador Anil Kumar Thrigunayat, former senior diplomat, thank you for putting that into context for us.